Well, joining me now to talk more about how gender roles are portrayed in advertising is Raegan Burden. She's lecturer of cultural engagement at the University of Florida. Welcome to the show.
Hello, thank you so much for having me.
So let's talk a little bit about what led to this rule in the first place and how some of these guidelines are being followed, given that some of the subject matter can be quite subjective.
Yes, I think you kind of have to look at it across both sides of the pond. And when we're looking at that type of disparity, again, we're not saying you can't see a woman in a grocery store, in a shopping cart. We're not saying you can't see a man doing DIY projects around his home. I think what we're trying to say is we don't want too many images that don't show that man and that woman in other opportunities. For example, a man babysitting his own children, a woman in a classroom as a professor, or a principal of a high school. It is about looking at the different types of experiences that people are having. It's not so much about saying that you can't be in one space, it's about being more inclusionary in how the spaces are reflected holistically.
Now, is this rule necessary, or is it a case of too much political correctness, as some critics have argued?
Actually, I believe it is necessary. I think that social policy has a way of helping things that are already there to become more abundant. Are there already firms, advertising agencies, companies, corporations, brands that are already taking steps to be more inclusionary in the experiences they show their consumers? Absolutely. But I do think knowing that there is a second hand that is observing what the holistic patterns look like collectively, I think that does help, because it creates a space for firms that honestly want to specialize more and grow their clients more in these areas. And it also, I think, takes some of the restrictions off the actual brands and companies themselves who are trying to find that balance to be more broad in their approach. So yes, I think it does help.
Now, let's also look at the psychology of this. A lot of people end up tying their self-esteem to some of this messaging that they see from advertisers. How do advertisers really impact our perceptions, for better or worse?
I believe that in all things, and I often tell my students, the #1 assignment that I have, my job is to build you as a cultural communicator. That cultural communication, as we experience it within advertising, is very much a continuum. We are really one of the parameters for how we filter what is happening in everyday life, whether that's aspirational, whether that is based out of experience. So advertising has a very, very huge role in this space, even psychologically. You need to see yourself in order to esteem yourself in that place.
Now, I wanted to get to this issue. A lot of people think that the UK standards of advertising are on the stricter side. How is the overall culture of UK advertising and its impact on the global industry?
I think it's very important. I mean, I think historically we all understand that, if I can be very direct, London is as much a part of the advertising business as any country could or city could possibly be. It really does serve as a continuum, a filter for where we are. I don't know if strict, as I see it on the Western side, I appreciate the different policies, the different rules, the different ways they're trying to make it inclusionary, because overall, advertising is also a business. It's an institution. It's an industry. And you do have to have both a combination of creative freedom, but you also have to have something that pulls against that to be more inclusionary of the different experiences across race, gender, culture, and so forth. So honestly, I appreciate their added steps here to try to almost essentially give an opportunity for more reflection and more representation.
Now, one of the things that the UK focuses on is a lot of this truth in advertising. And these mascara commercials, they have to put in the small print, no, this model is actually wearing fillers inside her lashes. And political ads are not allowed to be negative. You're not allowed to bash another candidate in UK advertising. But how does a company navigate having its products across several countries with all these varying regulations in different countries?
Do you know, actually, the first thing I think of is CVS. When they put forward that beauty in real life campaign, essentially no more airbrushing of any of the beauty images that appear. And I thought that was revolutionary, because that crossed, quote unquote, a stricter advertising environment, but it also gave room across the board, literally across the world, because what does that do for CVS? What we're saying is, yes, you're going to be in our beauty department as men or women, but what we're also saying is that by looking at this, this is not a plastic surgery situation we're doing in here. And what that does do psychologically is it helps someone say, hey, I can enhance who I am. It's not about changing who I am. And I think that message that CVS really put forward, I do believe is revolutionary. And I think it's really important. So that is one example of a brand that is a part of an industry that has really, honestly, strong roots within the beauty industry across the board that is saying, hey, we want to make you feel better as you're shopping to enhance yourself, not essentially tell you you have to be the opposite of what you are. So I think it's very important.
Right. Oh, thank you so much. We'll have to leave it there. Raegan Burden, Lecturer of Cultural Engagement at the University of Florida.